everyone, and welcome to another episode of Culture Calls, a monthly podcast by Culturelytics, where we talk all about culture in organizations, why it matters, and how leaders can get to grips with it. Today, we're in conversation with Sanchayan Paul. Sanchayan is Chief Human Resources Officer at Modenik Lifestyle, one of India's leading manufacturers and marketers of essential wear. At Modenik, he's responsible for human resources as well as corporate social responsibility and corporate communication. So it's quite a wide portfolio. But he's particularly deeply involved in people and cultural integration following the merger that created Modenik. And he's focused also on building a talent brand and a talent bank that's aligned to the company's purpose. Prior to Modenik, Sanchayan was an entrepreneur, co-founded an HR tech platform for blue-collar workers, which sounds very interesting. And he's held HR leadership positions at some of the world's best-known companies, Vodafone, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Reuters, and Reliance Industries. And in his free time, he's a keen cyclist and likes to take long cycle rides on the weekends. So welcome, Sanchayan. We're extremely pleased to have you today on Culture Calls. And let's just start with a little bit about you. Can you tell us just a bit about yourself, perhaps your work at Modenik today, and what role culture is playing in it for you?
Sure, thank you. Thank you so much, Clay, and to Culturelytics for hosting me here on this talk. And you've introduced me so well. I think some of the parts that you've touched about my past, and especially like that you talk about cycling. And I always say each of us, come to work and we bring in not just things that we know about work, but we also bring in our personal side to work. So that's great. Um, yeah, so I joined Modenik in December 2020. So it's roughly about exactly 2 years, and it's been a fantastic journey. The interesting part was when I joined that time, my priorities were very clear. So there were 4 or 5 key transformational agenda that we were using as a lever for business growth. One was we were moving from a proprietary owned organization to a professionally run organization. And both the companies merging together were not fully professionally run earlier. Second, we were moving from a commodity focused business to building a consumer driven brand. So there was a lot of work happening around building brand, understanding your consumers, your change in go to market, and some of those transformation continues to happen. The other piece was we were seen as a company which is innerwear focused, and we wanted to move away from that mindset both for the consumer and our employees and become a more fashionable essential wear company than only innerwear. So we do casual wear, we do athleisure, we do all the stuff around the yoga wear, gym wear, sports wear, and stuff like that.
Right.
Trousers and so on. And we are not only an innerwear company. So there was these 3 broad transformations happening in the company, which led to the fourth one, which is we needed to kind of hire and build leadership talent who could drive these set of transformations and big transformations in a very short period of time, which also meant that they needed to build resilience in themselves, or they should ideally come with that kind of resilience and build resilience in the teams below. And we're a private equity invested company, Clive. We are 100% owned by Advent International, which is a US-based private equity firm. And in a typical private equity acquisition, what you need to do is you need to drive a set of transformations very fast, very quickly, and create valuation in the asset. So it's a tough one and needs resilience and needs a very strong underlying culture to kind of hold things together.
Right. So yes, that's fascinating. That's a very comprehensive picture of the streams of change that you were undertaking, and therefore the need to inculcate a culture that supports those business transformations. Perhaps you can tell me a little bit about what some of the key challenges were in leading this culture integration. What were the difficulties? Some of the obstacles or challenges you faced, and how you've met them, and perhaps the ones you're still facing.
Right. No, that's a good question, Clay. And The two companies coming together, which was the Dixie set of brands and the Enamor set of brands, were very, very different in the sense one was a economy brand, mass market brand. The other was a far more premium brand. The good part was it was complementary because one was a men's brand, the other was a women's brand. So we were now playing across categories, but growing a premium business brand versus a mass market economy brand brings in two very different mindsets. Dixie again was a very large company, distribution focused, while Enamar was more e-commerce and modern retail focused. So there was different mindsets around the brand, around the channels of sale. So that was one key challenge to break because you needed to work together. We wanted to sell all our products through every channel in that sense. We wanted to become multi-channel, multi-product.
Right.
Uh,
So it involves
um,
different skills and different,
different skills. And because Enamar was a woman's brand, it also meant that people who were designing, people who were selling, a large part of the workforce was women.
ah,
And hence we needed to build that kind of capability in managers to handle a more diverse workforce. Not that Dixie didn't have women employees or women colleagues, but Enamar had more. And
right.
how do you handle? How do you understand them? What are the issues they face when they kind of interact with consumers? That was a big part. So managing diversity, managing two different mindsets, economy and premium. And of
Yeah.
course, as I said initially, both of these were um, promoter-driven organizations. So how do you
Yes.
become professionally run, which means
Process
that
oriented, professionally
process
oriented.
process
Yeah.
oriented. And what we actually did, Clay, is we co-created and shared our company's purpose. Why do we exist? Why have we come together? And what is the essence and the background of this coming together of the two companies? Which really helped people see that there is a why of this existence. We're not coming to work for anything. We said we were building, mm, our purpose was evolving every day for a elevated lifestyle. So we were a lifestyle company, and our job was to help employees and consumers evolve in their aspiration because everybody aspires, every human aspires. That's the human truth that everybody wants to
Yeah.
evolve every day. Along with the purpose, we also set a vision which helped people get direction, and we set a core set of organization values, which was common for both the companies, of course, and which meant that people knew what are the terms of working together, what's
Yeah.
acceptable and what's not acceptable, what what do we need to do to reach our goals.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And did you find that that was easily accepted and inculcated in the organization, or what steps did you have to take to build those values into people's everyday work?
Yeah, good question because you can always set values and talk about them, but nobody really kind of probably sometimes understand them because different words often mean different to different people at different layers of the organization.
Yeah.
India is also very diverse, so how the English language is seen can be interpreted very, very differently. So I think what became important besides doing a lot of communication around it is one, we built a recognition program around values, saying who value champions. Second, what we did is we said it's not just about performing and meeting your KPIs. It's also about how do you demonstrate your values. So in our performance evaluation architecture, we just don't evaluate your performance against your set KPIs or OKRs and stuff like that. We also say, have you demonstrated these set of four values that we have? And our values are challenging boundaries.
Hmm?
Our values are collaborating because collaboration is a big thing, not just because of the merger, but because of the whole hybrid kind of ways of working. We said it's about doing things right. because a company which is now private equity owned, professionally run, will also follow a certain set of ethics, code of business conduct, and so on and so forth. So
Right.
doing things right was very important. And fourth was making it happen because you have to do these set of things in a short period of time. You can be very ethical, very process oriented, you can collaborate, and you can take on big tasks. But if you don't make it happen, if you don't
Yeah.
finally show business results, nothing
Yeah.
goes. So these were our values, and we made it part of the performance evaluation process about on the reward recognition side, and we did a huge amount of communication around it. Our if you come into our office or in any of our factories, you would find these values and their definitions and the pictorial depictions of these values very clearly etched out in the rooms,
Right.
in the floor, in the wall of the office, and
Right.
so on. So,
Okay. Okay,
mm,
great.
yeah.
That sounds extremely well conceived and executed. So congratulations for that. It sounds
Thank you. I think it's the entire leadership team here, led by Sunil Sethi, who's our chairman, and great support from the board and from the private equity partners, which has kind of built this. It's no way one person's job, and
right.
the marketing team, the HR teams have all really kind of brought this together.
Yeah, no, that's terrific. You mentioned hybrid workplace. Let me ask you a little bit about that. What's Modenic's approach to that, and have you what the impact of it you believe is on the culture, and how are you managing that?
Yeah, so I think in significant parts of 2020, of course, almost the whole of 2020 and significant parts of 2021, we had kind of moved to work from home. Uh, However, if you
Sorry, I don't
see,
mean it, but it's interesting too because the merger happened in the
correct,
middle of all of
yes,
this, so it
indeed,
must have been a
indeed.
challenge. So,
Correct, and we had two different offices. So even set aside the work from home, there were two different offices, which we of course
okay,
brought together at some point in time. But there were two different offices. It's pretty distributed because there are manufacturing locations which are not in Bangalore. Most of our manufacturing locations are outside. Our sales branch offices, only one is in Bangalore. North, south, east, all are in different locations. So we
okay,
are multi-locational in that sense. And you're very right. The merger was happening in that point of time. So we used to have some weeks where we came in and then things got bad and again we went back and so on and so forth. But I think our whole approach is that firstly, the role itself has to render itself to working from home.
mm,
If you're manufacturing where you're actually kind of working in the warehouse or working and stitching garments or packing them or selling them from stores, or going from outlet to outlet and acquiring outlets, you can't really do it.
of course.
You can't, you have to be there physically. And there were times when our factories had closed down during COVID,
Mm,
and
mm,
what we ensured is nobody's pay gets cut, and they're all retained. And whenever the factories were allowed to be opened by the government, we came back. But the fact is, there are roles that don't render themselves to work from home, and there are certain roles which do. In the roles that we do, we say that that see, the biggest thing that suffers is, I think, collaboration,
mm,
and the whole human emotional connect goes missing somewhere.
yeah.
And
Mm,
if that emotional connect is not there, then you kind of are not connected with your manager, with your teams, with the organization.
yeah.
So we say that whenever you need, if you find trouble traveling a certain day or you want to take care of family, etc., if your role renders, you're absolutely open to work from home. So we are more hybrid, but there's certain ones which don't even render themselves to hybrid. But
Right.
we
Sure.
are more hybrid, more focused on need and care. And if there's need and care, people can work for from 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, also work from home if they need to do that.
Okay. Okay. So very much hybrid, and obviously
Very, very much.
manufacturing people have to be manufacturing and retail sales. You need to be.
Retail sales, you
You need
need
to
to be
be.
there. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. 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 But okay. But sounds like you, even in that context, take a flexible approach where it's possible. So.
That's right.
Okay, great. Uh, I'm going to quote two people to you. I'm curious what you think. We all know Peter Drucker's famous dictum, culture eats strategy for breakfast. I'm just curious if that rings true to you in your work over perhaps at Modenik or before that, is your work with HR and culture over time. Does that ring true to you in your experience?
Well, I wouldn't go into too much into the statement, but what I would say is the strategy and culture are partners in that sense.
Okay.
And in your dietary menu, if you're talking of breakfast, both culture and strategy need to be there. Only then it's a balanced dietary
Diet.
breakfast. If it were diet, yes, correct. So if I look at Modnic right now, or even earlier, I think it's very important for HR folks to first understand what's the strategy. And of course, in Modnic, I had the opportunity to co-create the strategy or participate in the creation of the strategy. But I think once that's set, HR folks then need to enable building a culture.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
only HR doesn't build culture. Culture gets built through the leadership team, managers, people supervisors, and so on. And I think that HR folks need to ensure that the culture delivers to the strategy. Um,
That's very well put. Yeah.
yeah, the shared purpose that we did, the vision, the values, culture, everything finally has to deliver to the strategy. So here in Modnic, the strategy, of course, was very clear to me, and my team's job was to ensure that we build a culture that delivers a high performance culture that delivers strategy. So one of the things that we did, and not to take too much of your time, is we said that we will instead of a performance management kind of an approach, we'll take a performance enablement approach, where we will enable people to perform around four goals: financial goals, goals related to growth of the business, goals related to efficiency, whether it's using technology or process or people, and around capability. So how do you build system capability, process capability, people capability? So financial growth, efficiency, and capability were the four goals, and we will enable you to perform through different inputs, coaching, KPIs, and so on and so forth, so that we deliver the strategy.
That's
So
fascinating. Performance enablement. That's great.
yeah,
So that's, and people appreciate that. So it's
people appreciate that.
helping them to perform. Yeah.
Otherwise, the feeling goes around saying somebody's trying to manage my performance. I think we can't really manage people's performance. We can guide them, coach them, give them dashboards, enable them with inputs, send them to programs, but we can't really manage, and it's not an asset extraction,
Yeah.
that you're extracting something from an asset. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely fascinating and an interesting reconceiving of that idea. That's I like that a lot. Um, I want to switch just briefly towards the end of our conversation, sort of from the what you're trying to the how. So how one manages culture. Again, I'm quoting someone else too, Jack Welch, who said that the soft stuff is the hard stuff. Referring to culture, something that's as soft as culture is often in some ways the hardest thing to manage. And so how do you do that? How do you get to grips with it? And I was wondering if you think that data and technology can help to do that.
Right. I think again, here the soft and the hard go together. I think in today's world of hybrid and so much of digital, human emotions, consumer care, sustainability, which are so-called softer side of things, are important. However, they go hand in hand with data, with digital transformation, and with creating processes. Because if you're not leveraging data to understand your consumers or your employees, I mean, who better to talk to than your company, which kind of tries to do analytics around culture. If you're not leveraging data, if you're not leveraging technology to understand your people, then only anecdotes or just pure play around with emotions or trying to just talk to a few people doesn't really help today. You need to understand every single user, every single employee. So I think data and technology helps there. The other piece is if you don't put processes and policies which need not be bureaucratic but need to enable the business. But if you don't have any of those and only focus on softer aspects, you won't have guiding principles.
Mm.
You won't have um, the philosophy. You won't have the architecture in place to take you from place A to place B. So I think they're very important. And at certain points in time, one may want to deviate or one may tend to go wrong, overflowed with emotion. That and I think those are the points in time your processes and policy come in place to kind of say you, hey, here's your guideline. Do you think this is right? And often you might need to change your policy and process because that's not working for the people, not working for the consumer.
Right,
But yes, they do come in as guiding principles or a lighthouse in that sense.
right. To have an accurate understanding of where you are, and if you need to course correct, to do something
Right?
that
And yet across all of these things, I think today's leaders are leading the whole cultural transformation, and they need to be inspirational to inspire people to perform, to innovate, give them that empowerment, give them that kind of coaching guidance to help them do well. So leaders need to demonstrate that softer side of themselves, while the organization also needs to have some of those harder aspects, which kind of keeps things together, act as a guide to the whole thing. Too much,
right. So you need both.
too much of the soft or too much of the hard can
Right.
kind of break the organization. If it is too hard, too soft, organizations can get directionless at some points in time.
Right. So again, balance, like we were saying about culture and strategy.
That's right. That's
Right.
right.
The only other thing that we're coming towards the end of the conversation, the only thing I wanted to give you a chance to talk about, if you have something to say, if not, it's not a problem, is whether or not you've seen any standout examples in your time, and I mean over your career, because you have a very varied career, of any particular places where you feel the organization or the leader has got culture right, or perhaps it's got it wrong, and it's been a problem. Um, but if that's not something that you're thinking about today, we don't have to
Sure,
do
sure.
that. But
I think it's an important question in sense to kind of for me to reflect. But I mean, without taking names, I think if you reflect back, there could things to pick up from everybody, from my current leader to my past leaders. But I think anybody who spends significant amount of time with employees and with consumers and with people who make your products, because they're all people, right? Even
yeah,
employees are people, customers are
yeah, right.
people, and people who are making your products are people. So
Yeah,
leaders who spend time understanding them, I think are able to build great businesses and of course also build great culture. Second, I think they need to be role models themselves. They need to walk the talk. If
mm,
they are saying something else but doing something else, and and third, they need to do and live all that when nobody is watching. I think
yeah,
that's very
yeah,
important, and that's done. I mean, if the leader is a role model, I think people just feel that they need to be like that. Some people will feel embarrassed saying that, oh, my leader is like this and I can't do this. So different people change themselves based on either getting embarrassed or getting inspired, or just simply saying that, oh, this person has reached there probably because he behaves this way.
right. No, those are very good lessons about leadership in the context of culture. So appreciate that.
And and I think the leaders also need to be vulnerable and they need to learn. I think we are all learning. I think as long as our leaders and all of us, even if we're not leaders in any function, we say that we are learning and we want to see what works, what doesn't work, and we want to listen. So I think listening is a big thing.
Yeah.
And then you say, yes, I listen, I hear you, but there are things I can do, things I can't do as a leader.
Right. Right. But that inspires trust to at least
Yeah, that
to, to
yeah, yeah.
listen. And, mhm,
Uh, That's a good
right.
point. I think trust and you know, trust is something that comes very slowly. And I always say that trust comes on foot. It comes walking, but it can go away on a flight. It takes a flight and leaves, but it
That's
comes walking.
great. Comes in on foot and leaves on a
It
jet
leaves on a
plane.
flight, a jet plane. Yeah, that's right. That's
That's
right.
great. Okay, well, thanks very much. We really are at the end of the time. Unless there's anything else you'd like to leave the audience with, but I think you've given us a lot today. So a lot of very wise words. I really appreciate it. So thanks very much, Sanchayan and Paul, for joining us on the call today. It really was fascinating. And thanks everybody for listening and for joining us. If you have any questions, please get in touch and please make sure to like our post of this video and the audio. Okay,
Thank you, Clay.
thanks.
I enjoyed the interaction and look forward to hearing what's the audience's reaction and their inputs. Thank you so much for the wonderful set of questions and hosting me.
Great. I really enjoyed it and have a good weekend.
Thank you, Clay. Wish you the same.